Hey everybody, hello from Vegas. This is Reema Desai. I'm doing my weekend psychology series for all of you who are as psycho as me and curious and inquisitive to know about human behavior. Today we're talking about the difference between mental versus personality disorder that many of us who don't know many of you who would not have knowledge of psychology may get mixed up and may not know, like for example schizophrenia. Is that a mental, like a psychological disorder, or a personality disorder? And why is there a difference between the two? What creates that difference? So before I go forward, I want to thank all of you who've been giving your blessings and wishes to my daughter. She did great at her tournament today. And I've surprised myself. I think I knew that I never really was attracted to Vegas and wanted to come here, but I'm not even wanting to go out and look at all the bling bling. And in my hotel room downstairs, we're at the Stratosphere, and when we walk in, there's a whole casino downstairs, and I'm like, oh my God, all those lights, they drive me crazy, the lights and the noise. So, we have been talking about personality disorders in the last 2 weekends, and I've covered mainly cluster B personality disorders, which have the most people are most aware of and they're most inquisitive about, like narcissistic personality disorder, sociopaths, etc. But I also want to talk about in our series going forward the difference between a schizophrenic or people who have eating disorders as versus those who are just or like multiple personality disorder, split personality, which is now in psychology known as dissociative personality. Dissociative disorder, not even personality. So, what is the difference? What is the difference between a psychological disorder and a personality disorder? A personality disorder is more, and the ones that I've spoken about are great examples. It's more so about how the person is engaging with their environment, more or less in a social manner. When is the onset of the disorder, which typically people with personality disorders have a tendency, but they don't, it's not diagnosed or they don't fully develop it until teenage or early adulthood. Whereas in mental disorders, there's very early onset. Both of them have a tendency and both of them are influenced by the environment in different ways. But the simplest definition or the difference that I can tell you is in a personality disorder, it's a lot about them engaging socially and with other people, involvement of other people, of how they respond to them or how they behave or the choices they make, versus a mental disorder is a lot about just the mental distress caused to an individual, not so much related to their relationship. It does affect their social interaction and their social abilities, but it's not directly about how they're interacting with other people. So, schizophrenia, split personality, which we don't, in psychology, we don't call it split personality because it's not a personality disorder, it's a psychological disorder. Schizophrenia, all of these, or even multiple personalities, they are all mental disorders, they're psychological disorders, they're not personality disorders. Anxiety, depression, they're emotional and psychological disorders, eating disorders, and we'll go into what are the eating disorders and we'll go into all of these other mental disorders. But I want to wrap up personality disorders with you. In the past, I've spoken about obsessive compulsive, histrionic, antisocial. I spoke about narcissistic personality disorder. And then there's a few more that are not as common, but they directly impact how they are responding socially to other people. So one of them, for example, is avoidant personality disorder, where the person is, there's just very, very deep chronic issues of guilt and embarrassment and how, they show up with other people, the mental distress of how do other people view me, and they want to avoid situations and people where they feel embarrassed. But know that in a disorder, it's always about hampering their day-to-day functioning to a very, very deep degree, to a very, very, like the minutest level of their decisions and thoughts are influenced by the disorder so much that they avoid what a normal individual would not avoid, even if they were anxious about how other people view them. So it's important for you to get the difference and not generalize that. Or, for example, dependent personality disorder, in that the person is very needy. They're extremely needy, like they constantly need somebody else to take care of them. They're emotionally very dependent on other people. But for example, somebody with borderline personality disorder can also show a lot of dependence and neediness and the fear of abandonment, but it differs from dependent personality disorder in key ways. And a clinical psychologist, a psychiatrist, they would know all those differences, and I don't like, it's all the nitty-gritty details that I don't like, that's not something that I can share or would want to share in the live video, but I want you all to just know the difference between mental disorders and the commonly known personality disorders that I've already covered. Some other personality disorders that I've not spoken about is the most of the cluster A, where it's paranoid personality disorder. Paranoid is just goes by the term. They have paranoia. So they're constantly like, it's almost a phobia and a fear of somebody's out there to get me, or not trusting other people, even people within their family and in their close bonds, just having a deep distrust of other people. Or schizoid and schizotypal, I never get it right to say it. In those disorders, either there's just no interest, complete disinterest in engaging with other people, or it's about not wanting to engage with other people because of other emotional, like feelings similar to like anxiety and similar to avoidant personality disorders in some way, but not exactly. So I don't want to talk a lot more about the other personality disorders that are not as commonly known by people, but I do want to start diving into the mental disorders, and there's a huge chunk. There's just so many for us to cover and know about, because that affects the common people more so. And they're not, unlike personality disorders, mental disorders are not culturally defined, right? So personality disorders are really about also in a way that they're categorized are culturally the norm of people responding to their environment is so and so, and a person who's not fitting into that norm and also exhibiting other symptoms can have personality and are diagnosed as having personality disorders. So mental disorders are not culturally bound in that sense or defined in that way. It's a lot about internal distress. It's a lot about emotional distress to the individual, and it hampers how it hampers their feeling of distress, or their ability to cope with situations. The internal coping strategies get affected most deeply in psychological disorders. So what I want to do going forward is start talking about those. So eating disorders, and there are 3 types of eating disorders: anorexia, bulimia, and there's one more. I almost know it at the tip of my tongue. Binge eating disorder. Then we have anxiety and depression. That'll be a long series. In mental disorders, there's split personality, which commonly people know as split personality dissociative personality disorder, which is very, very interesting, which all of you may be interested in learning about. There's some Bollywood movies that have been made on that, not necessarily very accurately shown, but there are some movies that have shown split personality disorders, even Hollywood movies. Then I'm just thinking, what other mental disorders? Schizophrenia is something that we've covered, and I've known somebody very closely. I've seen them very, very closely. My close friends, a family member with schizophrenia, and the amount of impact it has on the individual, it's just disheartening sometimes to see and to know people. But it's good to have information, and it's good to know that they're still individuals who deserve love and respect, and who need love and respect more than all of us may need in our day-to-day functioning. So I'm going to decide going forward what I'm just going to instinctively pick which topic. I'm thinking I'm going to start talking about eating disorders. I knew a friend, I remember a neighbor, and the moment I thought of making a video on eating disorders, I remembered her, and I'd forgotten her completely in all these years. She was way younger to me when I was growing up. I was in my teens, and she was about like maybe 10, 11. and I was in my later teens. And watching her, I was studying psychology then. So I was actually at the end of my teens, like towards my master's degree more so. And since I was learning psychology, just watching her, she was not aware, her family was not aware that she had eating disorders. But watching her had caused me so much emotional distress in a way because I felt very helpless. I felt very helpless because her parent, thank you for the like, thank you for watching and sharing. Her mother was actually a huge factor in her having that disorder because I could see it. It was the demands that were placed on her for her body and her body weight and shape and what she should eat and when she should eat and how much she should eat was so unhealthy and distressing even just for me to watch. And I would see her and I could tell from her face when I would meet her, so today something's happened, you've cried a lot, I can see it in your eyes. And her mother would always be around. There was major control issues and she would never be able to share with me. But I could read it in her eyes. So it was a trigger in a way. It brought back memories of my friend. I don't want to share her name. I don't know where she is. I've lost in touch with her. But eventually I'd stopped going to her home because I was going through a lot of my own emotional distress and it was unhealthy for me to be around there. But what I want you to know is it's very, very real. It's very why I'm sharing this is because it exists among many people that we know that are our neighbors, family members, friends. And by you becoming aware of what are the symptoms, how does it show up, you may be able to detect that and provide support to somebody. You become aware and help your family members when otherwise not knowing it could go undetected, undiagnosed. And people like these, like with mental disorders, are oftentimes have exposure to abuse situations. So and they are several times they're living in that abusive situation, so they're not able to seek help, or they feel so controlled or so victimized that they don't seek help, whatever the scenario. So when somebody else is able to do that for them, it can be like a life-saving situation. So that's one of the reasons that I'm sharing these videos. It's also my passion. I love psychology. I miss psychology. I excelled as a psychology student because I love the inquisitiveness of human behavior. And with the way my career and life worked out, I lost touch with psychology directly. I didn't have access to growing my career in that field. So this is like a way of me reliving that and sharing my skill set and information and knowledge. So thank you everybody for watching from Vegas. I haven't gone down to see the strip mall, basically not the mall, the strip, because I'm not interested in the bling bling at all. It's never attracted me, and I've never wanted to come to Vegas, to be honest. I've had so many chances, and I came this time because I wanted to support my daughter in her tournament. But we are at the stratosphere, so I'm just excited about being able to go up on the top, view whole of Vegas. I don't know if I'm up for the ride today because it's cold, it's really chilly, but otherwise in general I love adventure rides. I love them. So that's about it. Thank you for watching. I'll see you again next weekend with psychological, I don't like the word mental, with psychological disorders to start with. Bye all of you psycho people watching Psycho Me. Thank you for following. This is Rima Desai. Bye-bye.